Thinking about buying your first new car, or perhaps you're after a second runabout vehicle and you want it to be brand new. Well, there's a number of new models on the market at the moment. They're quite affordable. The Chery Tiggo 4 is one of the most affordable outright, and certainly in terms of being an SUV. But are there risks associated with buying a cheap vehicle and or from a relatively new brand compared with other brands that have been on sale in Australia for a bit longer? Well, for this video, I thought I'd put together a top 10 good and bad, or pros and cons list. Now, just because I list 10 bad things doesn't mean I think it's a terrible vehicle. They're just things that you could perhaps consider. And some areas or some elements might not be applicable to you. Like, I'll try and highlight if they're my personal opinion, but most of it is kind of professional opinion based on competitors that you can get for a similar price, although there's not much around for this price in this category. Number 1. Yeah, this is definitely one of the most spacious and kind of practical offerings in this specific class. You've got a dual level center console for extra storage, cup holders, a center console box, which some rivals don't even have that. And because this features a kind of what I would call an upright cabin orientation, like it's not trying to be one of those coupe SUVs, it's just a very upright, tall windows and so on, good visibility. You've got excellent headroom as well. Like, my head's nowhere near the ceiling, even getting in and out. For a small SUV, this is definitely very spacious and practical. Even in the back, you've got a center folding armrest with cup holders, just a single climate vent, which is a little bit disappointing because it means only one person can get the climate, but you do have a USB-C port down there, a little pocket, and a relatively flat floor. Again, decent amount of room back here, like my head's nowhere near the ceiling, and I've got very good leg room. Number 2. Yeah, definitely, because this is the base urban variant as well, and you've got twin screens running across the dash, even a separate climate control panel down here, touch screen, which is excellent. Means you don't have to be digging around in that screen just to adjust certain things. You do have some physical buttons across the dashboard here as well. Now, I'm not a huge fan of screens everywhere. I prefer instrument dials and so on, just a little bit more sort of engineering, I guess, a bit more attention to detail. Slapping a big screen on there doesn't involve that much creativity really, apart from the graphics and so on that are displayed. But even so, for this price range, you're cross-shopping, you jump into some of the rivals. They have either just a small screen on the dash and then basic instrument cluster. There are some buyers that are going to jump into this and go, wow, you know, it's got that wow factor, in other words, in terms of technology. Number 3, yeah, getting back to the spaciousness of this cabin, 380 litres opening up to 1225 litres with the rear seats folded. This is the updated Tiggo 4 as well, so it's now got the split folding seat. The original model that launched in Australia just had a single bench that flipped forward, which is, you know, a little bit of a downside, because meant that if you've got one person in the back, you can't flip down the seats just to feed through some furniture. Anyway, now you can. It's got 60-40 split. I don't know what these are. I think they're just charging cables. They've left them in the vehicle from the previous tester, but definitely a good amount of space in there for this class. Number 4. Under the bonnet, we've got a 1.5 litre turbo-petrol 4-cylinder engine, 108 kilowatts, 210 newton meters. That is quite good for this class, especially for a base model. Being turbocharged as well is a little bit rare for being a base model. It is connected up to a CVT automatic, which is not my cup of tea, but this is just meant to be a little run around. CVTs are known to be better for efficiency in terms of in the lab, in the real world, potentially as well. I've heard a lot of stories with CVTs breaking down. Like, my father's got a Toyota Corolla that he used for Uber driving, and even it had a CVT, and even it broke down. But it was after about 270,000 kilometers, and he used to park on a very steep driveway, which I think contributed to that. So straight away in the cold morning start, reversing up the driveway, or he might have backed it in every day. I can't remember, but yeah, I don't think CVTs are the best gearbox out there. For this style of vehicle though, I think it can be excused, and I don't think most of the buyers are going to care. But yeah, overall those outputs are quite good for this class, especially for being a base model. We've timed 0 to 100 in the 9 seconds bracket, which is again respectable for this class. Number 5. Yeah, so if ride comfort is important to you, This is got a very soft suspension setup, which I'll get to in a later point. But if you're after just absolute comfort, say you drive on very poorly surfaced country roads or even dirt roads a lot, then you'll want that soft suspension to absorb the bumps. Yeah, this is definitely one of the most comfortable in that respect. Even these standard seats are actually quite nice, got a decent amount of bolstering on the sides, but they're very soft and cushy. Number 6. Yeah, this is obviously a subjective thing and personal opinion, but I think it looks quite nice. I like that it's neat and tidy, well proportioned, sort of kind of muscular front end, a bit of a cheekbone there. Only thing I don't like is the wheels are kind of indented in. All of the Chinese vehicles seem to do that. I don't know why, but just get those wheels out a little bit, put some spaces there just to, so it's paired up with the body or flush with the body. But aside from that, I think it actually looks pretty good. Even around the back, it's got some detail in the tail lights as well. Yeah, for this class and for this price range, I think it does all right. Number 7. Although ANCAP ratings are becoming less and less relevant these days, now this is a personal opinion thing, but yeah, I think most vehicles are quite safe in terms of their structure, their strength, resisting, crashing into something and being quite strong. I think most new vehicles on the market are quite good. It's just ANCAP does have this latest sort of tick box selection system going where if you've got this technology, bang, you're eligible for 5 stars. If you don't have that technology, then you're not eligible for 5 stars, even though some of the technologies, as we'll find out later on, are not very good and you end up turning them off. So then it's not 5 stars in their kind of terms anyway. But this does have a 5-star ANCAP rating, which is good. It's going to look good on paper. It's going to look good in the showroom, especially for a new coming or relatively new brand and one that is quite cheap. Number 8. Yeah, although 7 years is not class leading anymore, Mitsubishi and Nissan now offer 10-year warranty. This is still quite good. 7 years, unlimited kilometers. It just gives you that peace of mind, especially from a vehicle like this. By that I mean from a new-ish brand. Number 9. And then pairing up with that sort of affordability theme, cap price servicing, I think that's pretty good for a base model like this. It just means you're not going to be hit with sudden costs unless something breaks. And then number 10, the most attractive feature to the Chery Tiggo 4, in my opinion, is the price tag. This base model Urban starts from $23,990 drive away. It is the cheapest or the most affordable turbo SUV currently on sale. I'm pretty sure that still stands. I know that that's what they boasted when it first launched. There's so many new models arriving these days that it's hard to keep up with them all, but I'm pretty sure that is still the case. The most affordable turbo SUV on sale today. Okay, we've heard the good elements to the Tiggo 4. What about the bad or the cons or just the considerations, I guess, is the most sensible way of saying it. Let's start with number 1. Yeah, this is a bit of a pet peeve of mine, and I actually think it does affect safety to some degree. Having these big screens, there's no volume knob. You do have buttons down here, which is better than some vehicles that have, I remember driving, I can't remember what it was, but it had the volume from a pull-down tab on the touchscreen or the steering wheel. So if the passenger wanted to change the volume, they had to pull down the touchscreen and then adjust it using a kind of slidey bar thing. Just really frustrating and cumbersome in my opinion. What's wrong with having a volume knob? Like, it's so simple, it's quick, it's efficient. You don't have to, it stays where it is. It means you don't have to go looking for it. I just don't know why they have to get rid of these things, like fix it when it's not broken kind of thing. But as I said though, it is good to have that separate climate control panel down there so you're not fiddling around in the same touchscreen that does everything else. Number 2. Yeah, the problem with having screens everywhere is they collect a lot of dust and fingerprints and so on. But even down here, you've got piano black. I mean, this is just wasted space, really. They could put a little trough or something there. But yeah, look at all the dust. I purposely left this. I only picked it up the other day, so I haven't actually driven it that much, to be honest. And look at all the dust and fingerprints and everything that has accumulated already. I mean, it does look pretty classy when it is clean and just sitting there, but yeah, after a decent drive or decent ownership, that's going to get pretty mucky. Definitely worth carrying a microfiber cloth or something like that. Number 3. So although this engine is quite powerful and offers decent performance, it does sound pretty harsh. I've got a feeling there's not that much sound deadening materials in this package. That's where they can save some money, I guess. If you have a look under the vehicle, it's pretty basic. Usually there's all sorts of panels and like spray-in rubber sound deadening materials. This doesn't have much at all. But yeah, it just means that engine is, it's quite harsh as it is, and you just get all that sound straight into the cabin. It doesn't sound all that refined when you're driving along. You could excuse it though, because it is quite cheap. Number 4. Yeah, so this comes back to that sort of ANCAP viability, I guess. It's the safety systems, they're quite annoying. They seem too sensitive. So you yawn or something and it starts flashing at the dashboard, or you go out of the lane, not even go out of the lane, sorry, you just approach the lane markings and it yanks the steering wheel. It's just not very refined in my opinion. But then on top of that, to turn the systems off, it's quite cumbersome. You've got to go into different menus and so on for different things. And obviously you've got to turn that all back on as part of the sort of ANCAP regulations. So part ANCAP's fault, not necessarily Chery's fault. But yeah, I have driven vehicles in this class that have the same technologies, but are just a bit more refined. They're not as annoying, so you're less inclined to want to turn them off straight away, or you might last a few minutes before turning them off. Number 5. As we found out, the boot is quite big in this for this class. It does have a space saver spare wheel under the floor. But interestingly, there is a bit of a step between the floor and the sort of bottom of the boot. So you could actually just prop the floor up a little bit and fit a full-size spare. I don't know if the top spec Ultimate comes with a full-size spare, but definitely the base model under here is a space saver. I'm not a fan of them because it just means you've got to stick to a certain speed limit. If you're about 80 usually, if you're out in the middle of nowhere, you don't want to be driving along with a very skinny, narrow wheel. It's not going to provide as much traction as these tyres, although I'll get to those later on as well. Yeah, it's just better to have a full-size spare in my opinion. Number 6. Chery is still quite new in Australia, so it might have been around for quite a while in China, in its home region of China, but in Australia it is still a relatively new brand compared with some of the established Japanese, Korean and even European marques. Now that just means, or it can mean, that it's a bit more difficult to get it serviced, for example, or even to buy one. Like if you live in a remote area, you're going to have to drive into the city or the nearest big city to buy one. But also parts distribution and supply is likely to be a bit lower than a brand that's been established here, that's got a proper parts supply distribution center or warehouse or whatever set up already. Chery does not have a big footprint, so that could mean if you get into a bingle or something breaks or something like that, you're likely to be waiting a bit longer for parts compared with those established brands or more established brands. Number 7. Yeah, so this, it might seem like my opinion, but I'm going to use some facts here just to sort of back up my claim, I guess. But the resale value on this is not going to be very good. Compared with, and I don't mean compared with a Porsche 911 or something like that, I mean compared with other small SUVs in this class. So let's take an example. 2023 Chery Imoda 5 BX base model. New, it was priced from $32,990 drive away. Compared with a 2023 Toyota Corolla Cross GX base model, so these are both front-wheel drive base models, it was priced from $36,480, not including on-road costs when it was new. So a little bit more expensive, especially once you add in on-road costs. Now, taking a look at the resale values according to Redbook, so this is based on what vehicles are actually selling for rather than just an opinion. The average selling price for that Chery 2023 model is $18,425. The average selling price of a 2023 Corolla Cross GX base model, $35,575. That means the Chery has retained around 55% of its value. The Toyota has retained 97% of its value. That is absolutely massive, the difference there. Now, Toyota vehicles in Australia do tend to hold their value very, very well. I don't know why exactly. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're better products or anything like that. I mean, it can definitely suggest that, but it's not an absolute. But it is a factor, like they are selling for more. So you are getting more of your money back at the end of the day when you're trying to sell it. Whereas this, you're not going to get much of that $23,990 back when you're looking to upgrade or whatever. Number 8. Yeah, this features the well-known Chaoyang SU318A highway terrain tyres. These are, I don't even know, they don't feel very good. They don't offer very good braking performance, as I'll get to later on. if I had to drive one of these every day, then I would definitely be getting rid of them and putting some decent, reputable tires on there. And some people are probably going to say that these tires are made in the same factory as some well-known brands. That's got nothing to do with it. It's the specification. So whoever, Goodyear, Bridgestone or whatever, will have a set specification and go, these tires need to be this. They need to overheat at this level. They need to hold on grip at this level in the wet. And all these different specifications, and lots of engineering goes into that. Whereas these, I'm going to suggest, haven't had the same extensive engineering put into them, even if they are manufactured in the same factory or just down the road. Number 9. Yeah, so this is a pretty big one for me. I've pulled up from 100 in 44 meters in the Chery Tiggo 4, which is not very good. I'm talking on the same piece of tarmac with the same V-box, with me driving, same weight in the vehicle or whatever. Compared with any rival, they usually stop in around 38 to 40 meters, or even less, some of them. So 44 meters is just not good enough, in my opinion. Now, there's no point in getting my figures or my times and comparing to someone else, some other tester's figures, because they're going to be on a different surface, they're going to be using different equipment. I'm just talking about what my V-box has shown on the same piece of tarmac, under the same conditions, in the same vehicle class. And 44 meters, yeah, it's just not good enough. I put it largely down to these tires. Now, number 10, the worst thing about, or the biggest con of the Chery Tiggo 4, in my opinion, is the handling and suspension. I know I said before that it's quite comfortable, but I'm just talking specifically about comfort. So if you were to drive along a road that had 100 speed bumps, this thing would do very well. But if you value driving dynamics and handling, then you've got to just wipe that all away. This does not handle very well. I'll put it down to those tires quite a bit actually, but we'll go for a drive now and I'll show you what I mean. Just before we go actually, so it does have this touch screen down here for the climate control. Turn the aircon on and it comes up here anyway, and then it takes over the screen. So that's a bit weird. Why not just keep it down there? Why do you have to show me that and that? It's basically showing me the same thing. The aircon's on, the fan speed and whatever. That's pretty pointless in my opinion. And again, it takes over that screen. So what I had there before is still not coming back. Now it does. Okay, so this is with all the safety systems left on, total default driving setting. We'll see how the lane keep assist and all of that does, and the driver monitoring camera. It just feels so sloppy through here. I know this is not meant to be a Porsche 911, but coming around here, like there's so much body roll, and the steering just feels really flimsy. Like when I do that, I know not everyone drives down the road like that, but do the same thing in a rival, it just is much more planted and it's just more secure on the road. You've got a bit of vibrations coming from the back as well. Something's rattling under the floor, which, you know, I would excuse that because it is such a cheap price that you're paying in the first place. I guess the main thing is this can be easily fixed. There we go, prolonged distraction, even though I'm totally focused on the road ahead. Yeah, this could be easily fixed just with some springs and damper changes. I reckon I could fix this. Give me 10 different dampers and 10 different springs and I'll configure a decent setup. A massive company like Chery should be able to do it quite easily. Under the rear end, you've got a very basic torsion beam suspension setup. Like, I'm talking the most basic setup I've seen on a 2025 vehicle. A lot of rivals also have torsion beam, but yeah, just the beam and everything looks very thin, and there's no stabilizer bar. There's nothing under there. But yeah, around these bends, it doesn't feel confidence inspiring. There's a bit of wheel spin happening as well. Actually, I'll just slow down and take off for you. Traction control is all on still. Just started spinning the wheels, and then you got that harsh engine sound with the CVT. It's not the best combination in my opinion, even for this class. There we go, the top 10 good and bad things, or pros and cons, to the Chery Tiggo 4. As I said at the beginning, these are just my opinion, or my professional opinion, based on its nearest rivals. And a lot of them are just considerations. So if you are thinking about buying one of these, check out that top 10 list. Some of the elements might not apply to you. That's fine. I think it is good that Chery is offering this package at such a low price though, because it just opens up the market. It allows more buyers to jump into a new vehicle and experience and enjoy the benefits of a new vehicle, such as extensive warranty, the new car smell, but the latest technology, the latest safety, and the latest efficiency. This isn't super efficient for this class. If you just look at the official figure, 7.4 or something like that, there are more efficient rivals in this class, including in the real world, but it's not bad. It's not that it's bad, it's just sort of average. And again, you've got to take in that price point. This is such a low price. So it is great of Chery to offer that. What about me? Would I buy one of these? No, I wouldn't. I would buy a second-hand Toyota Corolla, Hyundai i30 or Mazda 3 before I would consider one of these. If I was after something like this, that is. But especially if it was for my son, you know, an inexperienced young driver, the handling just really puts me off. If you had to swerve for a kangaroo, and I know they say you shouldn't swerve for animals, but an inexperienced driver, natural instinct is going to overpower logic. And swerving in this, whether it pulls it off or not, I don't know. It's just not going to feel very comfortable. Again, it comes down to those tyres a bit there as well. But also the safety technologies, they're over the top. I think an inexperienced driver will hesitate and be a bit alarmed and overwhelmed. Like I could imagine my mother-in-law driving this and actually having a heart attack because of all the bells and whistles and the steering tugging and all that sort of thing. She'll think the car's possessed by the devil or something. But also the resale value would impact my buying decision as well. Have I missed something? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching.